Welcome to Living Life at the End for the Successful and Fulfilled Woman. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, the liberated lawyer. I help women to get everything they desire in life by equipping them with powerful strategies to achieve the fulfillment they desire and deserve. Who said you can't have it all? Clearly, they did not know about living life in the end. When women make powerful decisions and create great strategies, they can have everything they desire in life. Girlfriend, forget about choosing between being successful or fulfilled. You can be successful and fulfilled. It's time for you to get everything you desire and deserve. It's time for you to live your life on purpose. It's time for you to live a life that is fulfilled, meaningful, and full of joy. It's time for you to walk boldly in the power of your decisions. If you are going to be in this world, you need to be fulfilled in this life. Life is too long to be unfulfilled. Join me for another episode of Living Life in the End, where you learn how to live fulfilled, fit, and free. Welcome to Designing a Life on Purpose series. You often hear me say at the end of each musing that fulfillment doesn't happen simply because we desire it. It happens when we decide to go get it. Well, this series is going to walk us through the 11 petals of the Successful and Fulfilled Woman framework so that we are equipped to design the life we desire and deserve. Being successful and fulfilled comes about from building a life that is on 3 foundational pillars: being fulfilled, being fit, and being free. And within each of those pillars are petals that enable us to blossom and bloom into the life we desire and deserve. So as we design a life that actually works for us, we can become empowered as we open up each petal that give rise to being successful and fulfilled. Within the fulfillment foundation are the petals: family, friends, love, and purpose. The fit petals are fitness, focus, and faith. And free petals are finances, frolic, fashion, and freedom. So in this series, we're going to walk through each of these petals, and I'll share a little bit of how I have used these in my own life and invite you to use the power of these petals for yourself. Hey, it's time. It's time for Musing from the Mind of Dr. SDB, where I share provocative thoughts to help you live your life in the end. Girl, I've got something on my mind. There's a difference between being busy and being purposeful. You can have a full calendar, a respected title, and a packed, impressive resume, and still feel like something is missing. That feeling isn't confusion, it's misalignment. Purpose doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers until you're brave enough to listen. We're continuing our petal journey of the successful and fulfilled, and today we're stepping into the purpose petal. This one changes how you see everything else. Your work, your relationships, your sacrifices, even your seasons of disruption. We have to realize that purpose is not a job title. Let's clear this up immediately. Your purpose is not your job title. It's not your degree. It's not your productivity. Purpose is how your life energy is meant to be expressed in the world. Some people are meant to build. Some are meant to heal. Some are meant to disrupt. Some are meant to translate pain into possibility. Your job is just one container for purpose, but it is not the source of it. And when a role no longer fits, it doesn't mean you fail. It means you've outgrown the container. I remember when I set out on my journey to find my purpose. Ironically, it was during my desire to chase a title. I decided I needed to be a CEO. And being a CEO was going to be the achievement that would propel me into success and significance. I literally was chasing a position. It was at a time when I was really trying to find myself, honestly. I did have the impressive resume. I had graduated from Harvard Law School. I had worked at prestigious law firms in the Houston market, and at that time, I was in the C-suite. I was an executive at a health system, but I really didn't feel like I was really doing anything. I didn't feel like I had any power. I didn't feel like I had any impact or any significance. And somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that in order to have the power and influence and significance that I desired, that I needed to have this title. I needed to be CEO. And in the process, I started reading. I read somewhere, that CEOs read 4 to 5 books a month. So I was like, well, I need to start reading 4 to 5 books a month. And so I started reading books that were on some list that CEOs supposedly read. And the more I read and the more I began to delve into these topics, it was really more about leadership. None of the books were on being a CEO. All of the books were on being a better person, being a better leader, being someone that others wanted to follow. And in the course of doing that, I learned that my purpose was not to become a CEO and tell people what to do and have power, influence, and success. My purpose was to help others to find the leader in themselves. And I literally used the books that I read to develop a leadership course called Finding and Developing the Leader in You. And I went to my CEO and I asked him to allow me to create a leadership program just for women, or to have the first class just for women, because I identified that there was a need for more women leaders. We had all these women who worked in the health system, and yet they were not represented in leadership and executive positions. And he agreed. And I taught 5 sessions of this leadership course and was able to positively influence over 100 women. There were a few brave guys who took the class, but I did succeed in helping more women to identify leadership in themselves. And that is what really began to give me a sense of purpose. And it has evolved over time. That class became Leading Your Life to Excellence, and it was a community version that I taught. I wrote a book, which was the narrative version of the class that I taught, Leading Your Life to Excellence. That's what the book was called. It's no longer in print, but that was the beginning of the journey that got me to where I am now. I started chasing a position and eventually began pursuing a purpose. Oftentimes, high-achieving women struggle with purpose. Why? Here's the quiet truth. High-achieving women are often rewarded for performance, not necessarily alignment. We're praised for being reliable, for carrying weight, for holding it together. So that's what we keep doing. We keep succeeding, even when it costs us ourselves. Purpose confusion often shows up as chronic restlessness, low-grade dissatisfaction, overachievement, and no joy. A sense of this cannot be all there is. And that's not ingratitude. That is your soul asking for expansion. And I remember the day when I literally asked myself, is this it? Is this all there is? And it was during a time when I had been diagnosed with COVID. This was like during the pandemic. And I guess in November of 2020, I tested positive for COVID. And, this was before the vaccine. And so people were still dying. And so I didn't know if I was going to die. I didn't know how bad my symptoms would be. Because I was asymptomatic when I tested positive. And so I didn't know if that would change. And so, of course, I had to be in isolation for 10 days. And this was probably the first night of being in isolation. And I remember asking, like, literally, if I die in this apartment, is this it? Is this all there is of my life? And at that time, I did not feel that my life was very purposeful. I was not in a good space in my career, not in a good space in my relationship, not in a good space in my calling. My leadership business had failed. My coaching business had failed. Everything that I thought was the manifestation of my purpose at that point was just non-existent. I was in a job that, paid well, but I really was not fulfilled. I was not fulfilled. And so I asked myself, is this all there is? And during that time of asking myself that and being in isolation and wondering, am I going to die? Am I going to get gravely ill? If I die, they're going to find me in this apartment. All these crazy thoughts were going through my head. I decided rather than sit here and worry myself to death for the next 10 days, I'm going to give this time purpose. And so during that time, I began to write. I just wrote how I felt. I wrote what I was experiencing. I wrote about the win for the day, what I looked forward to, but I gave that time purpose. And that revealed to me how important it is to have purpose. And eventually, the successful and fulfilled platform was born out of that question of is this all there is? And that commitment to giving that time purpose, to recognizing that if I'm going to be in this life, I'm going to be fulfilled. And purpose is a fuel that keeps us going. As I have been on my health journey, I have read lots of books around longevity and centenarians, and really learning for the people who live long, why? How do they live long? How do they have these lives that span all of these decades? And a central theme in everything that I've read about longevity and centenarians is they had a sense of purpose. I've also seen the corollary to that when a person lacks a sense of purpose and how it deteriorates their lives. Purpose is not just something that we put on a vision board or something that is cool to say we're seeking. It really is a fountain of fulfillment. So when you get to a point in your life when you're wondering, is this all there can be? Remember that is not ingratitude. That is not something that should be ignored. That's your soul asking for expansion. When we begin to ask ourselves, is this all there is? And are willing to take the responsibility for answering that, that's when disruption enters our lives. I believe in this concept of disruptive elevation, when life doesn't go as planned but goes exactly as it should. And this is the concept of embracing that disruption is often direction. So what does this really mean? Let me just say this plainly. Some of the most painful seasons of your life were not detours. They weren't real disruptions. They were recalibrations. Divorce, death of a loved one, demotions, career shifts, health wake-ups, identity shake-ups. All of these disruptions are moments and possibilities for elevation, because each of these disruptions presents you with a choice. Do I allow this disruption to derail me, or do I embrace this disruption and elevate my life? Purpose often reveals itself after what no longer fits falls apart. And you don't find your purpose by avoiding disruption. You find it by asking, what is this season teaching me about who I am becoming? If I can identify a singular point in my life that caused a disruption that led to a complete unraveling and dismantling of this perfect life I had. It was my decision to pursue my purpose. It disrupted my marriage. It disrupted my career. It disrupted my friendships. It disrupted my life. And the truth is, I haven't lost anything that did not need to be released. It's a great responsibility to seek your purpose, because along with that journey will come the disruptive elevation. Purpose is a choice. Purpose requires agency. That's one of my favorite words, agency. Agency is our ability to use our choices to change our lives, to shift our direction, to change the trajectory of our life. And here's the part most people skip. Purpose is not discovered by waiting. You know, we often hear good things come to those who wait. That is not quite that simple. Waiting is not just sitting by idly in anticipation of something dropping in your lap. Purpose is discovered through choices. It's chosen. It's activity. It is movement. You choose purpose when you stop living for applause, when you start telling yourself the truth, when you say no to what drains you, and you say yes to what stretches you. Purpose requires agency. The belief that your choices matter even when they're inconvenient, even when they're a disruption. And a lot of times, we will say that we're waiting on clarity before we move. We've got to see the whole picture. We've got to have all the directions. We've got to have all the answers. We've got to have it all figured out. And we're not taking one step until all of our ducks in a row, all our T's are crossed, our I's dotted, everything is in place. And when we start talking about we waiting on clarity, sometimes we lie on the Lord and say we waiting on him to tell us. He's already told us. He's already come to you in the whisper. Sometimes he's come to you in this roaring storm, but we lie on him and talking about we waiting on God. No, we ain't waiting on God. We're waiting on ourselves to get over the fear of what happens when we move. Waiting for clarity many times is fear dressed up as wisdom. Because clarity doesn't come until you commit to movement. Clarity comes after courage. We have to be willing to risk it all. We have to be willing to risk the perfect life that we have. We have to be willing to risk failure. We have to risk feeling stupid for trying something new. We have to be willing to risk people asking us, why would you give up this career to go and do this purpose thing you're talking about? We have to risk people not supporting us because we have the audacity to want more. We must be willing to take risks. On the other side of that risk is finding a fulfilled life. And I'll tell you, I have taken so many risks over the past really 15 years. I resigned from my job as a general counsel and chief legal officer to start a career in speaking and coaching. That was a big risk. I don't regret it because I'm grateful for the path it put me on, but it was definitely a big risk. I took a big risk to move here to Atlanta. I didn't know a soul here. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a client base, didn't have nothing but the desire to create something bigger and better for myself. And at this stage, I have not gotten the return on my risk yet. I've gotten returns, but not the big return I thought I would. And yet I still have no regrets. I am grateful that I pursued purpose. And I'm grateful that I had the courage to try something new. Because it has stretched me, it has grown me, and it has yielded beautiful experiences that I never would have had playing it safe. And the literal purpose I set out to achieve has evolved. How my purpose shows up in the work that I do is different than how it showed up when I began this journey. And that's the beautiful thing about purpose. It is evolutionary. Your purpose at 25 may not be your purpose at 45 or 50 or 55 even. That doesn't mean you were wrong then. It just simply means you're alive, you're evolving, you're doing new things. Purpose evolves as you gain wisdom, as you accumulate experience, as you integrate loss, disappointment, as you develop discernment. The question isn't, what was I born to do forever? The truthful question is, what is life asking of me now? I always like to remind women that our lives are like jungle gyms. So many times we limit ourselves and put ourselves in boxes unnecessarily by thinking that our life is a ladder. We can only go up, and going down is a bad thing. It's going in the wrong direction. But the truth is, our life is a jungle gym. We can go up, we can go down, we can go left, we can go right, we can swing, we can jump, we can slide down the little pole. There are all these things that we can do by simply moving and changing up and changing our minds. We have the power to create the life we desire at any age. Our purpose is not determined by our age, and it doesn't expire when we become any age. You can be anything you desire to be at any age. It may not always be easy. It may take a lot of hard work, and the path may be a little rough, but it's possible. And that's what we have to face, is that we have the power to change our lives at any point in our lives. But we must have the courage to change, the courage to move, the courage to take risks. So here's an opportunity to pause and ask yourself, what feels meaningful right now? Where do I feel most alive? What problems do I feel compelled to solve? What would I do if I trusted myself more? And here's the courageous question. Am I living on autopilot or am I living on assignment? And the truth is, so many of us are living on autopilot. We're doing what we should be doing. We're doing what society tells us we ought to do. We're doing what feels comfortable. We're doing what we've always done. And when we hear the pangs of dissatisfaction, discontent, and the desire for more, we must know that that is our purpose calling for us. So, how does purpose support a fulfilled life? Purpose is not pressure, it's permission. It's permission to design a life that fits you. It's permission to redefine success on your own terms. You are a grown woman. You do not have to define success by what your mama or your daddy or your big sister, your auntie them, your friends in high school, your sorority sisters. You don't have to define success by anyone's definition except for your own. You get to decide what success looks like for you. Purpose gives you permission to let go of the old scripts. Most of the scripts that we're following are not scripts that we wrote. They're scripts that have been handed to us, and we just follow right along and give award-winning performances. But it is a performance because it's not authentic to who we are and what our purpose is. Purpose gives you permission to build something that reflects who you are now. When purpose is clear, sacrifice feels intentional. When it's absent, even success feels heavy. If you want to understand how purpose is showing up in your life, or if it is evading you, you can take the Fulfill, Fit, and Free profile to help you see whether your purpose petal is dormant, emerging, blooming, or thriving. You can go to livelifeintheand.com to take the profile. Don't worry, I'll have this for you in the show notes. And if you're ready to translate your purpose into a clear next chapter, you can book a complimentary revelation conversation at everythingideserve.com. You are not lost. You are becoming. All who wander are not lost. And as you wander, it is the perfect opportunity to discover more about yourself, more about life, and more about how you can become the highest and best version of you. Purpose is not really anything that you ever chase. Purpose is something you choose. Your life lies in the power of your choices. Choose to live life on purpose. Next up, we'll cross into the fit pillar, and we're going to start with the fitness petal because our body matters. Until then, Live life in the end. Live fulfilled. Live fit. Live free. Well, that's all I have to say about that. Thank you for joining me for another musing from the mind of Dr. SDB, where I share provocative thoughts that help you live your life in the end. I hope you learned something. I hope you felt something. But girl, most of all, I hope you do something. Fulfillment won't happen because you desire it. Fulfillment will happen because you decide to go get it. Let's get it. This episode was brought to you by the Successful and Fulfilled Woman, New You Transformation, a VIP day for the high-achieving woman who is ready to be successful and fulfilled. If you are a woman who feels burned out and uninspired, or you are a woman ready to start over after a divorce, death, or other disruption, or you are a mother whose children are ready to leave the nest or are already gone, and you are now ready to create a meaningful life for yourself, or you are a woman who's approaching your golden years and you want the next half to be the best half, or you are a woman who's ready to get more out of life and ready to stop marking time and start living life, then we need to have a revelation conversation. Go to www.everythingideserve.com to schedule your complimentary revelation conversation, where together we will talk about where you are now and where you want to be, and begin to develop a plan to get you where you desire to be. You will leave your revelation conversation understanding the first thing that you can start doing today to begin living a successful and fulfilled life. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Living Life in the End for the Successful and Fulfilled Woman. Please be sure to let me know what made you feel something, what you learned, and what moved you to action. Please subscribe so you don't miss out on a great conversation. And don't forget to rate and review the podcast and let me know how you are living life in the end. Life is too long to be unfulfilled. Don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Tell someone else to listen for themselves. We should all be fulfilled. Remember, your life is the product of your choices. Choose to commit to bringing the desires of your heart to completion. You don't get what you deserve until you get what you decide. Life is too long to be unfulfilled.